morning, welcome to the RE Source. I'm your host, Ryan Hill.
And I'm Gary the Hawk Hawkinson.
Hey, check this out, guys. Last week there was a book that was just released called Reckless Endangerment.
Like texting while driving, you know?
Kind of, but a lot worse. If you read the book, it's about how outsized ambition, greed, and corruption led to our economic Armageddon. The book includes facts about Fannie Mae and taxpayer bailouts, and what you'll learn if you read this book is that in 2008, Fannie Mae received over $100 billion in taxpayer backing to keep itself afloat.
Because the company was perceived to be backed by the government and would be rescued by it if necessary, Fannie Mae found it easier and cheaper to raise money than its competition.
Yeah.
Now, it routinely stated that it passed every penny of its savings back to the homeowner in the form of lower mortgage rates.
Not so much so. This allowed the company to argue that any of the change in their status would result in higher costs for Americans. Now, it wore this claim kind of like a big coat of armor protecting itself from its critics. Only later would it emerge that the company was actually receiving billions and billions of dollars, at least 1/3 of the government subsidy, and they're keeping it for themselves each year.
Yeah, Fannie dispensed the money to its executives, its shareholders, its friends in Congress.
Yeah.
Fannie Mae was the quintessential example of a company whose risk-taking allowed its executives to amass great wealth, but when those gambles went awry, the taxpayer had to foot the bill.
Yeah, Fannie Mae and its sibling Freddie Mac were regulated by the Department of Housing and Urban Development. Now that's HUD for the layperson.
Right.
Not much of a watchdog, I would say, huh? Right? Well, its oversight of Fannie and Freddie was a part-time arrangement. Only a handful of people actually at the agencies dealt with the companies themselves. Shocking, right?
Speaking of HUD and how well they're ran, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, they'll re-foreclose. Yes, re-foreclose on all REO properties in Michigan.
The original foreclosure was conducted in the name of MERS, using the state's non-judicial process. In late April, the Michigan Court of Appeals ruled that Mortgage Electronic Registration Systems, MERS, is ineligible to use in the state's non-judicial foreclosure process because MERS does not meet the requirements to foreclose by advertisement and should have filed foreclosures through the state's judicial process.
In an email to HUD mortgagees, the agency said most of the major title insurance companies' underwriters have ceased issuing title insurance for any properties that were foreclosed via MERS. As a result, any Michigan REO properties in HUD's inventory that cannot close due to the inability to obtain title insurance must be re-foreclosed in accordance with the Michigan Court of Appeals opinion.
Now, currently, HUD has 3,600 REO properties in that state alone. This is pretty big news. I wonder how many other states will follow in their footsteps. Let's be honest, Michigan isn't really exactly like Disneyland these days. I mean, prolonging an already existing slow foreclosure process is only going to hurt values.
Now, will this be the final knockout blow for Michigan? Who knows?
Will this spread to other states like Lindsay Lohan's rash? Who knows?
But we were wondering what HUD and the rest of the REO lenders' inventory looks like.
So because we are the RE Source, we did some research and dug it all up. Take a look at the REO numbers. Now, these numbers do not include the over 4 million people that are either 90-day delinquent or currently in foreclosure. So these numbers do not include the 4 million people.
Now, FHA does have the least amount of REO properties with only 69,000. Yeah, with private label securities leading the way with over 170,000 units. Now, private label securities basically are subprime and Alt-A lenders.
Right.
One has to wonder if the HUD REO Michigan problem will seep its way into the other REO giants like Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac.
We took this a step further and wanted to see these guys' current progression and all the handing of all their REO inventory, right? So take a look at this. This is the first quarter of 2011. It's their acquired properties versus their sold properties versus their short sale and modification numbers. Now this gives us a window into the nationwide foreclosure pipeline. Now depending on what type of person you are, you're going to interpret this one of two ways.
You could interpret this as the sky is falling and go cuddle up with your bourbon and watch past speeches of Ronald Reagan and dream of yesteryear.
What would you do if I sang out of tune? Would you stand up and walk out on me?
Or interpret this as, man, I got job security for at least the next 5 years because someone's got to buy, sell, and finance these homes. And now this is the way that Gary and I like to digest this information. What type of person are you?
Speaking of taking advantage of the current market, we're seeing a lot of home buyers looking to purchase a new home due to the insanely low prices. What they're trying to do is rent their current house out because they obviously can't sell their home in this market.
Hard to do.
So the issue that these buyers will face is in trying to use their rental income from the home they're vacating to qualify for the new home loan.
Now, this isn't such an easy task. Take, for instance, FHA. They say you have to have 25% equity in the said property, a lease agreement, and rent and security deposits prior to closing. Wow. Now, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac say you need to have 30% equity and reserves on top of that. Now, is that true? I mean, seriously, is that true?
Yeah, it is. Now, VA says it just has to make sense to the underwriter. The details are below for you to use as needed.
Now this is a hot topic today and will be in the future, so make sure you forward today's show to everyone you know inside your office because they too will be in the know. Now before we leave, even if you get our show, you got to make sure that you click on the new sign up button because we switched how we deliver our show, and if you don't switch it, you're not going to get it. So make sure you click on it and it'll send you an email. It's like a double opt-in. Anyways, I'm Ryan Hills.
And I'm Gary the Hawk Hawkinson.
This is the RE Source.